Good evening, and thank you for viewing the October 4th meeting of the Arcata City Council. The City Council meeting is being held as a hybrid meeting with both in-person attendance and teleconference access via Zoom. Our first item this evening is the land acknowledgement. The City of Arcata acknowledges that the land we are located on are the unceded ancestral lands of the Wiyot tribe. The land that Arcata rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Gudini, meaning over in the woods or among the redwoods. Past action by local, state, and federal governments removed the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threatened to destroy their cultural practices. The City of Arcata acknowledges the Wiyot community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement seeks to aid in dismantling the legacy narratives of settler colonialism. If you'd like to join us, please stand for the flag salute. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Schaefer,
Here.
Vice Mayor Matthews,
Here.
Councilmember Atkins Salazar,
Here.
Councilmember White,
Here.
Councilmember Stillman, all present.
If you wish to make a comment during tonight's meeting at the two open public comment periods or for an individual agenda item, there are 3 ways to do so. If you're here in person, please line up at the podium when the item that you would like to speak on is accepting public comment. If you're logged onto Zoom, click raise your hand when it's time for public comment on the item you wish to speak. And if you're on your phone, press *9 to raise your hand. And when it is your turn, you will be prompted to dial *6 to unmute your phone. For each item, we will take in-person public comment first, then move to online comments. We will not be going back and forth. So if you want to comment, please line up or raise your electronic hand as soon as comment is requested. All right, our next item tonight is ceremonial matters. And so our first proclamation this evening is a proclamation designated the week of October 7th through 15th as Water Professionals Appreciation Week. And Councilmember Atkins Salazar will read this proclamation.
Thank you. Whereas, water is the lifeblood of California, and without safe and reliable water, no community and no sector of the economy, from high tech to manufacturing to agriculture, can thrive or expand. And whereas, now more than ever, the water industry is proud of the important role our essential workers play in making sure our communities have safe and reliable drinking water. And whereas, thanks to technological advances by highly skilled and trained water professionals and the dedication of thousands of industry professionals in the state, California drinking water and treated wastewater meet some of the most stringent water quality standards in the nation. And whereas in the city of Arcata, there are 61 miles of wastewater collection pipes, more than 77 miles of water distribution lines, 16 storage tanks, 11 booster stations, 600 backflow devices, and 6,000 water meters maintained and operated by just 25 water and wastewater professionals to ensure that our wastewater is environmentally safe to discharge into receiving waters, and our drinking water is filtered, cleaned, tested, carefully managed, and safely distributed. And whereas water professionals with the city of Arcata work 24/7 to plan for the future, maintain and upgrade our systems, and improve the safety and resiliency of local water supplies for our communities. And whereas thousands of essential water, wastewater, and recycled water industry professionals in the state dedicate their careers by keeping drinking water, recycled water, and treated wastewater safe and reliable for use by Californians. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Arcata hereby recognizes October 7th through 15th, 2023 as Water Professionals Appreciation Week and extends its sincere gratitude and appreciation to the water and wastewater professionals who work 24/7 to provide excellent essential services to our community every day. Dated October 4th, 2023, signed by our Mayor, Sarah Schaefer. And I believe we have our Environmental Services Director, Emily Sinkhorn, here to receive this.
Emily Sinkhorn, thank you very much to the council and to the community for the recognition of our environmental services staff that really maintain the essential service for water throughout our community and also not only of water distribution, but also all of our wastewater. And so they've been extremely busy and working hard on our wastewater treatment plant upgrade. So they couldn't be here tonight, but they send a big thank you for their recognition.
All right, thank you. Our next proclamation is recognizing October 2023 as Community Planning Month, and this will be read by Councilmember Stillman.
Whereas community planning is a dynamic and collaborative practice that promotes sound land use, economic prosperity, environmental stewardship, and a high quality of life. And whereas the community planning process provides an opportunity for all people to be meaningful, involved in making choices that determine the future of their community. And whereas the full benefits of planning require public officials, community members who understand, support, demand excellence in planning and planned implementation. And whereas the local Redwood Coast section of the North Coast chapter of American Planning Association promotes planning at the local and regional levels through educational programs and events. And whereas the American Planning Association is professional institute, the American Institute of Certified Planners endorse October as National Community Planning Month as an opportunity to highlight the contributions that sound planning and planning implementation to make a the quality of our communities and environment. And whereas the celebration of the National Community Planning Month provides an opportunity to publicly recognize participation and dedication of local, private, and public sector planners, planning commissioners, and other community planners who have contributed their time and expertise to the improvement of the city of Arcata. Now therefore it be proclaimed by the City Council of Arcata that the month of October 2023 is hereby proclaimed as Community Planning Month in the City of Arcata in conjunction with the celebration of the National Community Planning Month. The council recognized that many valuable contributions made by professional community and regional planners of the City of Arcata and the County of Humboldt, and extends its heartfelt thanks for those continued commitment to public service by those professionals. It's dated October 4th, 2023, and is signed by Mayor Schaefer. And Colette Sanchez is going to receive it. Is she here? Well, if not, we'll get it to her. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And so our last proclamation this evening will be recognizing October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and this will be read by Vice Mayor Matthews.
Okay, recognizing October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas October is annually recognized as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and progress continues to be made towards violence prevention, and whereas domestic and intimate partner violence remains a serious issue affecting all people, regardless of age, race, ethnicity, sex, gender, socioeconomic status, literacy, sexuality, ability, religion, culture, and immigration status, and whereas domestic and intimate partner violence violates an individual's dignity, security, and humanity with the systematic use of control through physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic abuse, and whereas children exposed to domestic violence can experience long-term consequences, including difficulty at school, substance abuse, behavioral problems in adolescence, and serious health problems into adulthood. And whereas Humboldt Domestic Violence Services, HDVS, has been serving Humboldt County since 1977, to continuously support all those living with or escaping abuse, and whereas all survivors deserve access to culturally responsive prevention programs and services to increase their safety and self-sufficiency, HDVS enlists a diverse array of allies, agencies, and community members in supporting survivors of domestic and intimate partner violence. And whereas only together we can change the health and safety of our community by challenging the societal norms that perpetrate violence. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Arcata recognizes the month of October 2023 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The Council celebrates HDVS's 46 years of effort to improve community safety by breaking the cycle of domestic violence and intimate partner violence, dated October 4th, 2023, signed by Sarah Schaefer, Mayor. Is somebody... Oh, excellent.
They didn't give us the name, but we're glad somebody from the organization is here. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Humboldt Domestic Violence Services, we want to thank the city of Arcata for recognizing that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and just bringing awareness to the organization in general, because there's always constant work to do. So thank you guys so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So,
Great. Yes. Yes. We just read it, but if you want to come say a few words, and Alex will bring it up to you there. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. All right. Well, each year we like to celebrate Community Planning Month, and especially to recognize your amazing planning staff in the community development and environmental services departments, as well as planners in the public and private sector throughout the county. And I always think about how to explain planning to just members of the public, and I'm gonna have to think about this with my 4-year-old soon and tackling how to explain it to her. So let me know what you think. What is planning? Take a moment to wonder about your community. Why are homes located in a specific area? Why are businesses or industries located in another? How did someone decide where the roads would go and how many lanes each would have? How much park or open space is available to play in? Can you easily walk, bike, or catch a bus to your destination? These are questions that planners think about and are at the heart of planning as a profession. And the goal of planning is to maximize the health, safety, and economic well-being of residents in ways that reflect the unique needs, desires, and culture of those who live and work in the community. I don't know how I did. I think that's too long for my 4-year-old. But embracing youth engagement should be at the top of our minds when planning our built environment, including planning for population growth and housing, public services, open space, and agricultural land preservation. And these are just some of the planning concepts that are important to celebrate during Community Planning Month. Thank you.
All right, perfect timing. That brings us to the end of our ceremonial matters, and we do not have a report by commission or committee tonight, and so that takes us to early oral communications. So the city council values your comments. This is a 15-minute time period to allow people to address the council on matters that are not on the agenda. Know that pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss or take action on items that are not listed on the posted agenda. At the end of oral communications, the council may respond to statements. Supported requests that require council action will be set for a future agenda or referred to staff. Speakers will be limited to 2 minutes, and there will also be time for public comment specifically on each agenda item, and again at the end of the meeting under item number 12. So if you're here in person, please make your way to the podium. One of you has to go first. So make your way to the podium and line on up. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Fred Wise. I want to again thank the community development staff for the open house meeting a week ago, and to reinforce that a monthly open house meeting at a more convenient day and time would go a long way toward bringing in public confidence on the Gateway Plan. Even better would be monthly meetings at the neighborhood center every month, plus a large meeting at the community center similar to the open house from January 2022. Close to 2 years ago. All the handwritten comments from last week's open house were typed up and put into categories so that you and everyone can read them more easily, what the public wrote, and this is all on arcata1.com. Last night was the 5th monthly community-led Gateway meeting at the Arcata Playhouse. There was a good turnout, a lot of new faces, a lively discussion. Last month, the city manager asked if I'd update her with a summary of what was discussed. So I'll be sending you a report on the important considerations that were brought up last night by the interested citizens who were there. The next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, November 9th at the Arcata Playhouse. On Arcata One, a few days ago, I put up 2 articles on the Gateway Plan that were written by an artificial intelligence program. This was done kind of an entertainment, but the articles provide a pretty good summary of the Gateway situation, but they don't provide any answers for inclusionary zoning or affordable housing or ownership issues. That's not in AI yet. We look forward to the study session in 3 weeks. There's a lot to cover, and I hope that you will schedule more gateway and general plan study sessions in the next year. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello to council and staff. James Becker. On the September 25th joint study session, you weighed in on building, massing, and community benefits. Much of the conversation since December 2021 draft release has centered around building heights, and yet the more pressing issue is about the future building siting in relation to existing neighborhoods. Some speakers at that claim that proper siting of structures in infill housing cannot be synonymous, and that requesting what is promised in the Gateway draft is anti-housing and privileged instead of a way to scale into existing neighborhoods, as is cited in several GAP policies. By applying GA policies 9F, 9P, and 9Q interchangeably, new construction can interface into existing neighborhoods, and the L Street corridor, which represents communal gathering space for future walkable high-density neighborhoods. The L will serve as a non-motorized confluence between quality open spaces of future infill and numerous destinations it services. During the discussion about building massing and community benefits, council and some commissioners acknowledged the benefit of human scaling massing policies GA9P. This policy acknowledges the scaling of future infill into existing housing can be synonymous with achieving future housing needs. Many in the discussion about community benefits brought the conversation back to the benefit of acquiring and dedicating open spaces within the area plan. These open spaces can serve the dual purpose of non-motorized pathways and setbacks between existing structures. Commissioner Mayer, in another reference, spoke about the 360-degree design of structures, and I think this sort of applies as far as the setbacks. Application of these principles can offer community benefits of both existing residents and future Arcadians. By applying these principles interchangeably, new construction can interface into existing neighborhoods and the L Street corridor. And that's really about it. Thanks. Please consider that.
Thank you, Jim.
Good evening. My name's Joanne McGarry. I got off the bus after being in Eureka this morning, attending a Humboldt Transit Authority meeting, and then heading down to the co-op, bringing my trusty little cart. And I'm appreciating all the input that I'm reading on social media about those leaders of our community who are trying to live without driving for this week. And it's really been an eye-opener for me in the time that I've been doing that. But one of the things I brought up at the Humboldt Transit Authority was the need to consider, and as we talked about planning, National Planning Month and all, and community input, my community input was that really looking at relocating our transit center if we're going to have a lot more people living in the area west of K Street. So I just want to toss that out to you as one of the many things I brought up at that meeting today. Today. So yesterday I had the opportunity to witness something that was very, very disturbing, and I did send you all an email about it. I only heard back from a couple of you. I thank you for just acknowledging that you received my email. It's really, as elected officials, I know you can't answer everybody's email like you would want to, but it would really be nice to know that you saw it. So I ask again for you to acknowledge that you saw that I sent you an email. Whether you read it or not, I don't know. Or whether you liked it or not, I can't judge. But I just think we have a problem with the situation of in our environment and allowing things to build up literally into mountains when we need to deal with the encampments and the needs of people who are unhoused and vulnerable. And I'll speak more on this later.
Thank you. Do we have any online comments this evening?
We have one online comment. Go ahead, Jane.
Hello, Jane Woodward. Several things, actually. First, I want to thank the two members of the council that showed up at the open house at D Street Neighborhood Center. I had suggested you might want to do that, and two of you did do so. So thank you very much. And I think it's a really good idea to take advantage of those opportunities when you have them. Secondly, I've been trying to figure out how, as being online, when you, if I, for example, want, since I'm not there, if I want to raise an issue on what's on the uh, what's it called? Um, the items you don't have to vote on that you try to do. I'm sorry, I don't have the thing in front of me. That there's no way to get the opinion of people that might be online when you do that on the consent calendar. Sorry, I had a long day. So I don't know whether you're going to make provision for that typically or not, but I think it would be procedurally useful to allow that, because I judge members of the public that are there can, you say, can suggest something be withdrawn, but you don't have a provision as far as I can tell, if I were to want to do that. And that's, I thank you for all your hard work. You do work a lot. And I'm very interested in what you're planning to do in having the Arcata Chamber take over the responsibility of Main Street. I'm sorry we lost Main Street, but you know, this is a good merger of the two groups. And I hope the individuals that have been involved in Main Street will continue to
Okay.
participate.
So that's your
Thank you
2
very
minutes,
much.
Jane. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just add, we do accept public comment on the consent calendar, and that's when people can pull items, and that's open up. So all you have to do is raise your hand on Zoom like you would on any other agenda item. All right. Any other comments on Zoom? Okay. Well, then that takes us to the consent calendar. And so all matters on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the City Council and are enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is required, that item can be removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. At the end of the reading of the consent calendar, council members or members of the public can request that an item be removed for separate discussion. Item A, approve the minutes of the City Council meeting of August 20th, 2023. August 20th? Is that? It might not on the regular agenda. It could just on my script. No, it says August in the agenda too. So we'll make a modification to that for September 20th and all consensus for that modification. Item B, biweekly report on disbursements. Item C, adopt resolution number 234-10, authorizing application for and receipt of the Equitable Community Revitalization Grant for Butcher's Slough Site cleanup planning. Item D, approve a lease agreement between the City of Arcata and the International Woodworkers Local Number W98 for a portion of the Woodsman Hall and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. Item E, approve the green and gold corridor crosswalk design. Item F, approve the design for the Margaret Lane Trailhead Improvement Project and authorize city engineer to begin construction. Item G, adopt resolution number 234-11, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Arcata authorizing the city manager to execute all master agreements, program supplemental agreements, fund exchange agreements, fund transfer agreements, and any amendments for the South Arcata Multimodal Safety Improvement Plan with the California Department of Transportation. And item H, amend the contract with GHD for professional services to support the project specifications and estimates PS&E and right-of-way ROW phases for the Annie and Mary Trail Connectivity Project in the amount of $40,350.64 and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. So do we have any council members that would like to pull an item from consent?
I don't want to pull, but I wanted to, I will not be participating in item D.
And I don't want to pull anything, but I wanted to really thank the Woodman's Hall for preparing us an area that we can finally have our community center in Valley West. And they've been working really hard to get things in shape there. And I think we will see something happening according to this Transforming Valley West, which was today. And they talked about how we will have some kind of programs after we sign this lease happening at Woodman's Hall by spring. So I think it's very exciting. So with that, I would you want to ask if anyone in the audience wants to pull anything? Because otherwise
Yes, I
I'd move
think
for
we
adoption.
might have that possibility. And staff, do we want to pull anything? No?
We don't need to pull anything, but I did just want to acknowledge our finance director made some effort to add some additional transparency to the general warrant through the cash disbursements by adding a column anyway. It's a short description, but it does give a little bit more detail in that listing for the public and the council.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you, yes, to our finance director, Tabitha. All right, do we have any members of the public that would like to pull an item? Please come up to the podium and then hang by.
So I'd like to pull D and E and the GHD additional monies item. I don't know which item that was.
So could you say that slower? You want to pull D?
D and E
Okay.
and
H.
the GHD.
You want to pull
Okay,
H?
that was the confusing part. You're rattling off one. Okay,
You know,
I got it now.
Yeah, okay.
It's H.
Okay. Yes.
Item E, please.
Which?
E.
E. Yes. Okay, we've got E. All right. Thank you. So then, in that case, or is there anybody online?
There is no one online.
Okay.
I would just suggest that maybe you start with E and H first,
Yes.
and then we'll go to D.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So do I have a motion for A through C and F and G?
I'll make a motion for
Second
A,
it.
C, and, sorry, was it
Whatever
second?
she said, and I second it.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember White, second by Councilmember Stillman. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries unanimously, and that takes us to, okay, we're gonna come back to D because we're gonna have a recusal on D, so we will have E first. So please state your comments on E.
Can you read E again, please?
Approve the green and gold corridor crosswalk design.
So all these interesting additions and beautiful new art installations that are occurring, I sort of feel like unless I'm really digging deep into certain records or something, the public, I'm not sure, is really aware that these things are happening until all of a sudden they're on the consent calendar. So I'm kind of trying to figure out the history of how all of a sudden the idea of crosswalk designs came up, and where can I see these designs, and what was the process about all this? Because, I mean, I like the idea, and I talked to Dan Burden about crosswalk designs, but I just kind of sometimes see things pop up, and I said, well, where did that come from, and who's been talking about it? So if somebody can share that with me, thanks.
They're in the packet. They look like this.
Yes, but I mean, this is the
With
first
Cal
time
Poly.
I've heard that this is what's happening, and I'm just sort of wondering how this
So she
process
doesn't get-
works.
It's not.
So it's
maybe she-
not, I'm not talking about this meeting, I'm talking about, it's on an agenda item, and I have not read anything in weeks prior to this about this project. And I'm
Okay.
just sort of curious, because it's a consent calendar item, and the public doesn't have this opportunity to weigh in on it until now.
So this was from, can I speak to it?
Yes, but we're not gonna do a back and forth.
No,
so,
I'm not going
yeah.
to. I'm going to just say that the Arcata Main Street program, when Shoshana was our director, she spent a lot of time with a group of people talking about the golden green and how to actually connect Cal Poly Humboldt to the city of Arcata and various places. And so that happened over about 2 years ago, and they had a series of meetings.
Okay, but that's not specific to crosswalk design.
Great, and I think we had a second comment, was E was the item you wanted to pull, so go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. Similar, we're going to talk about the crosswalks, about what's in the staff report, and a little bit about transparency on this process. The map on page 46 of the packet shows the 7 green and gold crosswalks. That's from 2 years ago, as Councilmember Stillman mentioned. How would that be available to the public? That's my question. It seems that that sort of thing should be shown to the public. The map shows a Cal Poly Humboldt flag being flown on the flagpole at the plaza. There's currently a flag there. I don't know who decided that it should be there. I'm strongly against that flag being on that flagpole. It also shows the Cal Poly Humboldt flag on the Arcata City Hall flagpole, which I assume it would replace the POW flag. I want to know who's making these decisions. I don't, speaking for myself, I don't think that flag belongs on either flagpole. The map shows 17 streetlight banners, including 3 on the plaza. I don't think they belong on the plaza. I think 17 is too many. I think that's 3 per block. Should be like 1 per block. Some of those banners should be reserved for Arcata City events, like Pastels in the Plaza, or the Halloween or Christmas festivities. The staff report says that the budget for this is from American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds, and it gives an account. The account is for other professional services. I don't see how this relates to either professional services or Arcata's recovery from COVID. So I question the funding source for this. I feel the staff report just needs more clarity. We should determine where the funding is coming from. I think there's, to repeat, there's too many banners. There's nothing in a public discussion that talked about either the crosswalks or the banners or the flags. I would like to see a public discussion about whether the Cal Poly Humboldt flag belongs on the flagpoles in Arcata. That's it. Thanks.
All right. Any other comments on this item?
There are no online
I
comments.
I do have one.
Oh, okay, raise your hand, Jane. But not now.
I basically want to second what Fred just said, and commend Fred, by the way, which I didn't do earlier, for all the work he's put into illuminating the issues that we have raised, that the public has raised, and making the information available to the public. He's written tons of articles. He spent enormous amount of time. I think that he eats and breathes this whole process, and we should give him a separate commendation for the work he's been doing. I just wanted to point that out. But I do want to second his comments. It's like, this is the first time I've ever heard about this until we see this diagram. And it has all kinds of things. Why do we need 17 flags? I could see that it might make sense to put some across the bridges, which connect the city to Cal Poly, and maybe a few along the side streets, the route to the plaza. But I think the plaza should be remained for plaza events. And because there are many other institutions like the Open Door Clinic, the Mad River Hospital, that deserve our attention as well. So I think unilaterally putting so much attention on HSU for giving them so much free press is inappropriate when we have so many other businesses that are also significant in our community. Thank you.
All right. And I'm going to add, just because this is, from our ARPA funding that I do remember having a very specific discussion about the green and gold corridor in G&H Street and the, reasons behind connecting that corridor to Cal Poly, making students feel welcome on the path that they walk between the plaza and the university, and, the economic vibrance that brings to those businesses within that corridor. And so for that reason, I am very supportive of these lovely new looking crosswalks, especially getting some new color on there so they're visible and bright, and that's how I feel about that. Are there any other comments or a motion from the council?
Well, I believe it was in the Mad River Union, so I'm assuming people do read that either online or they read it as paper copy.
Well, I just wanted to say it did go to the TSC committee, so it was discussed there and on an agenda. We did talk about it, as you said, when we talked about ARPA funding, and goal setting. So there have been several discussions, but the way the process goes is, for people that are wondering, like, we didn't know about 17 flags or all of that. No, we didn't know either. Our job is to make a broad decision. We pass it off to staff. Staff does their job by coming up with a plan. It comes back to our agenda where we all just saw it, looked at it, and then that's our chance to approve or disapprove or make comments on it. So that's how the process works. And if there are no other comments, I would like to make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the green and gold crosswalk item. Any other final comments from council before we take a vote?
Well, I do know, I know there are people in our community who do not like Humboldt becoming a Cal Poly, but before that, they didn't really like Humboldt being here. But they are our largest employer, and if we didn't have them here, all these people would not be here, because this is one of the things that they like about our county and about our community, is that we have that whole part of our life is from Cal Poly, and we've been given so much opportunities from them. And many of us graduated from there, and probably many people who oppose any increase of Cal Poly also graduated from there. So I support this totally.
So we had a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. That'll take us to item H, which we had a comment on to amend the contract with GHD for Annie and Mary Trail connectivity.
I just needed a little explanation of why we needed $40,000 more on this project. Anytime we're spending additional monies on a project that has been approved at a set rate and stuff, I just think it's important, especially when it's a fairly high number additional monies. It'd be nice to have an explanation out loud so that people viewing this can understand why $40,000 more is being allocated. Is there anyone who can speak to that?
Okay, thank you for your comments. Emily or Karen, either, whoever's here, if you just want to give us a little bit of background on this project, or the reason we're amending this project.
Sure. So this project is to better connect Valley West and North Arcata towards downtown Arcata and Cal Poly. And in your council approved a contract with GHD and its subcontractors to support the design and right-of-way planning for the trail earlier this year. And at that time, we had scoped the needs to comply with NEPA at that time based on what we anticipated Caltrans would request. Once we got into the work, they requested an additional historical study for which no one locally and no one on the project team has the credentials in order to complete that work. And so this is additional work that was requested of Caltrans in order to go through the NEPA process. Caltrans is the lead for the NEPA process, and so we needed to add this additional scope item. The city does have all of our funding allocated from the state for design and right-of-way, and this amount is within those that allocation budget.
Thank you, Emily. All right, any other comments or questions from council?
All right, I move to accept item H.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on item H. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. And that will take us to item D.
Can I ask you to read the item, please?
Approve the lease agreement between the City of Arcata and the International Woodworkers Local Number...
I'm sorry, what?
Approve the lease agreement between the City of Arcata and the International Woodworkers Local Number W98.
Okay, so again, this is all kind of, unless you're really good like Fred in researching a lot of this, I think it's really surprising to many people in the community, and I'm not just speaking for myself, because I come here all the time and I try and learn as much as I can, but there are people who have no idea what you guys are doing and what the staff is doing, and then all of a sudden it comes on a consent calendar, which is also very concerning, about something that's really kind of important and should not just get passed with a whole bunch of other things. You know, cash disbursements is one thing, minutes to the meeting are other things, but when we're talking about a lot of these things, they need to be talked about and explained so that those who are not able to get the Mad River Union online because I've been blocked, and I'm not going to buy the newspaper, and that's not all, the only, place where this should be, publicized and we should be learning about it. I'm just really kind of concerned about how not transparent and not advanced a lot of this information is, and all of a sudden, oh, okay, this is the consent calendar, and, thank God some of us say, wait a minute, take this off the consent calendar and explain this a little bit. So can somebody explain this a little bit? Thank you.
So we had a whole meeting and we talked about allocating ARPA funds to having a community center in Valley West. And we as a council decided to elect to have Alex and Karen negotiate with the Woodsman Hall because Alex had brought this before us. Alex and I also went down to the Woodsman Hall together and looked at it. This was part of CUNA's participatory budget process that they wanted to pursue a community center in Valley West. So we have actually spoken about this item multiple times at meetings, and our council approved to let Alex and Karen negotiate and then bring a lease before the council. And here is that lease.
And just follow up on that, I knew that there was a lot of interest in having a community center in Valley West, and that they were thinking about using the place where Little Learners was located, but that's not available immediately. So when I was driving around Valley West, I wrote a letter to the Woodman's Hall, and they contacted me, and I said I was interested in finding out if they would be, what their uses were, or what they were planning on doing with that building. And then when I met with them, I talked about how we needed a community center in Valley West, something that's been talked about for probably since I was on the council the last time, about what we need to do in Valley West. So I pursued that, and we were able to move it forward and got permission to continue with it. And I think it's going to be a good thing.
And I'm not disagreeing
Alex,
with you.
Joanne, this is not a back and forth. You got to make your comment. You got your 3 minutes. This is not a back and forth conversation.
I wasn't going to do it. I agree with you that it's a good thing. Okay.
So with that, I'm really pleased that we've been able to make such progress with them and that we're able to sign a lease. And so I would like to move for adoption of the resolution. Oh gosh, we took so many off. Let's see, this is the D, approve the lease agreement between the City of Arcata and the International Woodworkers, Local W98, for the portion of the Women's Hall, and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. And thank you for all your assistance in making this actually happen for the residents of Valley West.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. That's a no-brainer. Okay, thank you. And we will bring our next council member back, and then we'll kick another one out. So come on back. There she, okay, you heard us. So that's going to take us into new business. Oh, you're going that way. Okay, sorry, my bad.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so item A under new business this evening is to consider the approval of an amendment to the agreement with the Arcata Chamber of Commerce to add downtown business support services. Go ahead.
All right, for this item, I'm going to recuse myself before I took my position at the Chamber of Commerce. I was sure to write a detailed letter to the FPPC to determine the level of conflict. The FPPC found that my position met the remote interest exception, and the city would not have a conflict entering agreements with the Chamber. I am not involved in any contract negotiations, as that is the duty of my board of directors who are present today for this agenda item. So thank you.
See you in a minute, or a few minutes. All right, so can we have a staff report, please, from City Manager Deemer?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. The city has had an annual agreement with the Arcata Chamber of Commerce for many decades to aid in the support of local business development and success. The Chamber's agreement focuses on business development, training, and networking. We have also had a longstanding agreement with Arcata Main Street that focused, I will say, just more on events and activities. I don't know why that doesn't want to. The city received notice at the end of last month that Arcata Main Street had begun dissolving their operations. The Main Street Board had worked proactively with the Arcata Chamber Board and requested that they consolidate some of the key programs under the chamber to see if they were willing to do that. So starting October 5th, the Arcata Chamber is available and interested in starting in earnest to plan to keep several of the key programs active, such as the Season of Wonder and Light, Arts Arcata, the Oyster Festival, and coordinated marketing and businessing network for the plaza and the downtown businesses. They've also offered to gear up to try to do something for our annual very beloved Halloween event. As part of this discussion, the Chamber Board reached out to the city and requested that the city allocate any of the American Rescue Plan Act funds that were originally allocated to Main Street but had not been paid to Main Street, and focus those to the chamber to complete the transition of programming and to allow them to hire the staff that'll be necessary to support the event volume that comes with their revised scope of work. Attached to the staff report was a draft amendment that outlines the new scope of work as well as a calendar of events. So I will stop there and answer questions. We do have the Arcata Chamber Board President, Roger James, and Vice President or incoming President, Bob Judavine, here tonight to also answer questions or speak to the transition. Thank you.
All right, do we have any preliminary questions or comments from the council, or if our board members did want to come up and say a few words about this transition? If you have anything else to add that Karen didn't cover, please feel free, but you don't have to. So do we have any comments or questions from the council?
I just wanted to speak up just on behalf of being the liaison for Arcata Main Street. I guess since I was elected, I've had that assignment, and it's been a really great experience, and I've watched the board and the organization really struggle and try to rebuild and get back on their feet, and that was part of the reason that we allocated the ARPA funds, was to help that process. But you know, it's hard in a small community to sometimes survive when we have sort of a duplication of efforts in some sense. So we had, you know, talked a little bit about the idea of merging those organizations, even though Main Street was still, you know, fighting to stay alive. And so I just wanted to thank all the current board members and staff, as well as past. This has been an organization that was created quite a while ago. Councilmember Stillman was part of that under a different name. So it is really an institution in our community. And so I want to just acknowledge and thank all of those, the past board members, volunteers, and staff. And also just express excitement. I think it makes sense to merge, and the chamber is a really solid organization with a solid board, and I think it'll be great for our community. And I would, you know, I guess personally, I'm just really interested in making sure that there is capacity at the chamber to have some focus on downtown and those Main Street events, because that, you know, is an important part of that collaboration. So that was all.
Thank you, Stacy.
And I agree with Stacy, and it's been a long time. And one of the things that's always been confusing to people downtown for part of the Main Street program is, why are they paying the chamber dues? Why are they paying Main Street dues? And they could never figure it out. And it was hard to explain it, that we were two separate organizations doing, one did one thing, one did another. So I think it's going to be really a bonus, and everything is all set for the chamber. They now have the Arcata Main Street container, which has all the things in it for the oyster, and everything else is gone. And Main Street will continue we are out of compliance with the Secretary of the State and the Attorney General. So Main Street will continue to operate, or not really operate. They'll continue to be, the board members have to stay in place until everything's resolved. Let's put it that way. And when that's resolved, then it will be dissolved. So I think I'm happy to see this has finally happened. It's been something I've advocated for I don't even know, maybe 10 years or more. And and not that I wanted Main Street not to make it, but we went through all these lulls and up and down, and it's been a rocky road, and I'm looking forward to it being strong. Thank you. And I'll second the motion.
I don't think there was a motion.
I thought Stacy would make one, or made one. Okay.
Well, we haven't even accepted public comment yet. I don't know. No, but I just want to also thank you guys for bringing this to us. And I know that Main Street has had difficulty, you know, maintaining board members, especially through the pandemic. And so it's exciting to be able to see kind of this force behind a already well-established and pretty dynamic board that likes to get a lot of stuff done and seems to be really active in the community. So looking forward to the chamber being able to take on some of these tasks. And I think it will do great things for all of Arcata, not just the downtown businesses. So anything else from the council to add before we open it up to public comment? All right, let's open it up to public comment.
My name's Joanne McGarry, and I'm usually not a big fan of mergers and acquisitions in the broad scheme of things, but I think this is a really great one. It's a long time coming. It's something I've actually, when I first moved here, was going, why do we have two separate organizations that seem to be doing something similar? The only thing I'd really like to highlight is, especially during COVID, funding for these organizations. And I do recall, prior to Councilmember Stillman being elected to the council, she and others who represented businesses, particularly in the downtown area, came in and requested ARPA monies and were provided some ARPA monies. And then things got a little fuzzy. And now that we're in this kind of merger component, I think it's worth our stepping back. And at some point in the very near future, I would like to see some accounting for the ARPA monies that were allocated to an organization that is under the process of being merged with another one. So, you know, I'm all for this, but when it comes to the money, I think we need to be very, very transparent about how much money was received, where it was, how it was spent, how much is left, and all that. Just really clean on the books in that regard. So I would like to request that a report be given about funding for Main Street. Thank you.
Well, actually, Main Street has not received any funds of the ARPA funds, and so there's nothing to report from that point of view.
That's why there's all this leftover money, because they never billed for it.
So I hope that answers your question.
But that could be an interesting future agenda item, just to have another check-in on our ARPA funding and see where that all went, if other people are amenable to that.
No, it will be scheduled as part of your mid-year budget review.
All right, any other in-person public comment? All right, do we have any online comments?
We do not.
All right. Well, I will bring it back to the council for any other thoughts or questions, or we can entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the amendment to the contract with the Arcata Chamber of Commerce to add services that were originally contracted with Arcata Main Street and that will now be consolidated under the Arcata Chamber.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Oh, and the timer's still going.
Congratulations.
All right, well, thank you. We look forward to seeing what the Board of the Chamber is going to do with all this stuff. So we're excited and looking forward to a great holiday season. Thank you. Okay, and so that takes us this evening into oral and written communications. This time is provided for people to address the council on matters not on the agenda. Know that pursuant to the Brown Act, we cannot discuss or take action on items not listed on the posted agenda. And at the end of oral communications, council may respond to statements, and supported statements that require action will be set by the council for a future agenda. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. And if you're here in person, come on up to the podium. And if you're online, raise your hand. Okay.
I meet say, oh yeah, I'll be here, and you know, I just saw one as I was headed here. So there are people interested, but for some reason they leave it to me to stand here and speak. My name's Joanne McGarry. I sent you a couple of emails recently. I'm very, very concerned about, as I continue to mention, what's going on with our vulnerable and unhoused people, and some of the circumstances I found myself in, especially on the plaza, when I was merely trying to traverse from one place to another and encountering disturbing behaviors and trying to figure out what we're doing and not doing. And again, when I had to witness the encampment and the 2 huge dumpsters being filled with huge amount of stuff that unfortunately was going to get thrown in the landfill. And having visited Recology, you know, it's just the amount of stuff that was accumulated in this one encampment and how it was allowed to fester for that long is really concerning me. This is a fragile environment. This is, you know, a play area. This is our city, you know, not doing what they need to do to make things safe and clean and healthy, and for the people who are apparently living there. What are we going to do, especially when winter comes and extreme weather? Nobody's giving me any answer as to who's organizing an extreme weather shelter program for when there is a need for people to have extreme weather shelter. You're elected people. I voted for some of you. I didn't vote for some of you. But you're here to represent the people. And what that planning proclamation said is the people are the people who you're serving. And then the staff is helping you to serve the people. And I sometimes feel like the tail is wagging the dog. You know, we are concerned, we're interested in our welfare of the community as a whole, for all individuals in this community, really needs to be first and foremost in your eyes. What is happening? What are we going to do with the unhoused and vulnerable people in the next few months? What are we going to do?
Yes, good evening. When you start looking at the general plan, there's a lot to cover. I'm not going to go into that now, but there is one item there that I want to bring to your attention so you can think about it and get some questions about it. And they has to do with the implementation measures. These are things that will be looked at in the next 2 years after the general plan is approved. There are implementation measures to take the areas of Bayview, around the university east of 101, Northtown, Arcata Heights, which is Upper I Street and Upper J Street, and the Sunset District, and rezone them as residential high density. This would allow 4-story structures, as we have learned from the inclusionary zoning state bonus law that actually allows 6-story buildings under the right conditions for the developer. In addition, it would allow what are called neighborhood commercial use. That's not defined, but it's loosely meant to be things that are in a walkable area to that area that would be usable for the people in that neighborhood. Before the general plan is approved, this will undoubtedly come up. I'm bringing it to your attention. I don't think it's the right zoning for those areas. I think perhaps something in between is appropriate. There aren't that many parcels on which this would apply. But if a house burned down or 2 houses burned down or something, unfortunately, then in theory, a 4-story or a 6-story building could be built in a residential neighborhood. You see this kind of zoning in Eureka, where you see an apartment house in the middle of a residential area. I don't think it's appropriate. We'll talk about it more later. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Thanks for your work.
Thank you. Do we have any online comments?
We don't have any online public comment.
All right. That will now take us to council and staff reports. Do we have any updates from staff this evening?
We don't. You're here. Yep.
All right.
Bridget.
Now I'm losing track of who I start with first. We're going to start with Stacy, I think, though, because we missed Stacy last meeting, and we're also proud of her for being on the league board, too. So we're going to start with you.
Sounds good. Well, because I have been out of town at council-related activities the past 2 weeks, I don't have a huge report out, but I did attend the Cal Cities Conference, where I was sworn in to help represent the Redwood Empire Division at the state level. And also, similarly, my role at HCOG, I am now the representative to the CalCog, which is the state agency for transportation funds. And I attended a leadership training through them, which was really interesting and educational. And I think that's pretty much what I have for now.
I don't have much to report other than I am on day 3 of the Week Without Driving Challenge. It's not fun. Unfortunately, I walk to work, but I've really been relying on people to give me rides and not taking the bus much. I know that, unfortunately, I've a work-related thing tomorrow, so I'm not schlepping tables on the bus or on a bike, so I will be using my car tomorrow, but I'm definitely more aware of how I am getting around and what my opportunities are, and seeing some people in different towns that are also taking this challenge, and some of them it's a lot easier for them, and some it's a lot more difficult because they don't have access to much public transportation, but it is definitely raising awareness for me, so I'm glad I took this challenge even though I am struggling.
Okay, my updates. I have actually some updates from our CEA, which is exciting. We approved some grant funding that's part of a rural EV charging system that they're adding new chargers in. There's some way out, like in Orleans and Hoopa and Garberville, so there's some rural ones, but Arcata is also benefiting, and so we will be receiving 2 new EV charging stations, one at Mad River Hospital and one at Carlson Park in Valley West, so that's exciting. And then also another really exciting thing for our CEA is that we finally had, not in closed session, and approved to go into contract to buy a property, which literally our CEA has been talking about that the entire time I've been on that board. I think my first meeting, we had a closed session about it, and so many things fell through, and then they didn't need as much office space in the pandemic, but finally we closed on a property that's actually literally like right across the street from where the current office is. It is a vacant lot, so our CEA will be building and is planning on having a education center at the bottom that's open to the public, as well as, a help desk, and, so people can come in and learn about our CEA's programs and all of that stuff. And so it's really exciting, and I'm happy for our CEA. And also that just reminded me of one other thing that we talked about. The state and our CEA will soon be re-upping their rebates on e-bikes, and the state has some really good rebates, and so if you qualify for the income threshold for it, which I think is like 3% of the poverty level, so it comes out to like around, if you make under, I think it's like $47,000 a year or something, you can qualify for even the higher rebate, which then you can double in and get the RCEA rebate as well. You'll have to buy the bike from a local shop that can fix it. That's one of the provisions for our CEA's rebate as well. And so that's exciting. So if you're thinking about getting an e-bike, I would recommend there's information on our CEA's website, and also looking into the state rebate program for that. And then also, there's a chamber mixer tomorrow, and it's going to be at the Hatchet House, which sounds really fun to me, to get some good sporting time in. So 5:30 to 7 at the Hatchet House here in Arcata. So that's all I have.
So I haven't had any meetings since our last, with the exception of Redwood Regional Economic Development Commission, and it was canceled. So I don't have anything to report for that. Valley West had a wonderful, successful Clean the Sidewalk event. We have new people coming again, so that's always fun to have new folks get involved in community. Just want to remind everyone about the Stand Down for Veterans on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'll be volunteering, and my teenager is too, so hope to see you there. And remind everyone also, Pastels on the Plaza on Saturday. So that's all I have. Thanks.
So my turn. So I just wanted to say at HTA today that they have had so many people applying to become bus drivers that they had to put a pause on it because they have so many drivers they're trying to train at the moment. So they've just said, we're taking your applications, but you'll have to wait. It's a really good thing, because when they have that eventually, and Joanne was there, so she might want to correct me, but what they said is they're going to be able to start more things happening once we have more bus drivers. So there'll be earlier hours, they'll be able to look at the evenings, and they'll be able to look at Sunday, but at this point they can't do any of that because they don't have enough bus drivers. So we're in a good situation at the moment. And they're going to be able to bring back Dial-A-Ride, and eventually Dial-A-Ride, we make a phone call 24 hours in advance to get picked up. Now I'm going to cough. But it'll also be that you can be in a bus stop shelter, and you can get picked up there. So they're going to start first with Samoa, and then things will go from there. It's a trial, it's a test, and we'll see how it goes. So it's quite exciting to see the turnaround that's happened recently. So with Colin, I promised I would do this. I would be without my transportation. And I was great on Monday, and I told him that. So I haven't been so good on Tuesday and Wednesday, but Thursday will be a perfect day for me, and half of Friday. So I just have to look at it from different points of view of what I do, how I do it, when I do it, and do it differently. So I'm not going to be a perfect person for you, Colin, but nevertheless, I'm not perfect anyway, so you couldn't expect that. But I've tried really hard to see what I can do and how I can be different. It's probably going to make me a healthier person too. Thank you.
I like the sound of the earlier bus routes, because then I could have been a week without car person too, but I have woefully failed. And watching my mom's cat on Fickle Hill didn't help, so. All right, and thank you to our council members that are making that attempt, and all of the other electeds out there. I've been following Natalie Arroyo on Instagram. She's been posting a lot about it, and it's fun to see what everybody's doing, so. And Mike too, yeah.
Mike Wilson's
Our
been
county
doing the same.
supervisors have been good. He rides the bus normally to work,
But
I
he
feel like.
was saying today at HTA that he rode his bicycle out to a meeting in Jacoby Creek, and he realizes he has to upgrade his lighting system on his bike because the flashlight isn't quite enough. So he learned that, and so I'm sure that'll happen.
It's teaching us what we need, yeah.
He'll be a safer bike rider.
Okay, and so that takes us now to dates of future meetings. We're going to confirm our study session with the Planning Commission on Tuesday, October 24th, 2023 at 6 p.m. And I think that's going to be full council. So hopefully everybody has that in their calendar, and we confirm that. Yes? Confirm. Give me a thumbs up, council. Confirmed.
It's confirmed. I know about it.
Okay, great.
But I won't be
All
present.
right. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, folks.